Oh my God, I remembered. Without being yelled at. Okay, so for today, we're going to identify the elements, model a few of those elements, throw them together. And I'm going to show how the even if you just model them, the goal of modeling the elements separately, we're going to play around with how we can combine them into like a complex thing on its own, or just array them in a project each as if they're all their own pieces. So which is pretty nice. A nice ability. Where is Brian? Brian just ran away. Come on, Brian. So what we're looking at is, when we look at this, what are the different elements that we need to model? And this is the hardest part about this, frankly. This is the hardest part about using Revit this way. It's both the benefit and the burden. Is you got to identify the elements and think about how you want them to, how do you want them to adjust in the project, right? Is there variability or not? And so first thing, let's say, well, we got this basic. We know we have a pipe. We've already made a pipe. We should have made a pipe a long time ago. 2-point adaptive, 2-point adaptive pipe. So that's a 2-point generic model adaptive. Now we're going to have some fun and build little end caps for them, like little connectors, okay, that we're going to host onto those. And these are going to be generic models, just straight generic models. They're going to be caps hosted onto our pipes, okay? But we're actually going to want two different sizes. We're going to want a compression version, which is bigger. Those are the ones crossing this way, and a tension version, which are going to be really small going away. So we're actually going to want two different knuckles, a big knuckle and a small knuckle. So we're actually going to want this times 2 also. So 2-point generic model adaptive pipe, which we've already have. We're going to model one of these, host it in there, and have two different types. Okay. So that's one thing, the pipes. The big beams, we're going to just do really simply the way we did the big beams in Lombardi's project. So we're just going to make these two based on a generic model line base. This is the way we did it before. And what's interesting is, because I'm going to do something interesting here, I'm going to say we're going to actually make it on the center neutral axis. So the center line this way and the center line this way, because all of this structural stuff attaches right at that center line. So there's no reason to like, I want these things all to lock to the same thing. So I'm looking at that being the center line. Okay, so those two beams. We've also got like the baby I-beam, but we already have that made somewhere. So we're going to have our little steel structure. Okay, and this was, I think we had one as 2-point adaptive, generic model adaptive, but at the same time, this could have been done as generic model line based if you don't have the one that we did from Mies. We're going to take the Mies van der Rohe one and just make it what we want here by changing its sizes, right? So if you have the Mies van der Rohe one, we're going to modify that for this. Now, there's some other things we need to do. There's another one that's like this gutter. So we're going to make a gutter profile. And I think what we might do is make this a generic model line based the same way, but we might make the panel that they walk on that floats directly above it. We might make it in this file also, but then be able to turn it on and off. If that makes sense. Because there's times where we just want the gutter when it comes out at the end, and there's times where we want it floating over the top. So it's like, okay, that could be a nice little variable, is whether or not that's there or not. Okay, so that's both the grate and the gutter, generic model line base. Now, the other things that we have, these crazy brackets. Okay, and so this bracket, where I'm going to do both sides. It's got a thickness. We're going to do the post that goes over, and both of them together as one cohesive object. because that's even how it's made. It is one rigid object, right? That's how it's holding those things together. So this we're just going to do as a straight generic model. So this and the end caps are just generic models that we're going to use because we want them to always be the same and kind of nested in somewhere. Okay. If we want to be fancy, we could actually make the base in this file also column cap thing with the bearing plates, right? But I might have it to where I could turn those off, if that makes sense, right? So this might be one, because these are only needed, like there's going to be a whole bunch of these brackets, right? A whole bunch in the entire field, there's going to be a whole bunch of these. But we could either model them in there and then just turn them off, or just have it be their own thing that we drop on top of the column. It's kind of which way I might model it on there, just and then turn it off as an idea. Now we're also going to have the panel and the photovoltaics above that. And I think I might end up doing that the same because I was even thinking already that I'm going to model it this way. So the idea that this object with the photovoltaic panel over the top might end up being modeled all in one generic model, pattern based. Okay, so this is one of those grid ones, right? So that way we could do it. So that's how, when I was kind of working through this. Now, how did I get there? Lots of experience. First, problem solving all the stuff that we already know, that I know I can do easy. I am accepting that this is always going to be flat. That's what I'm going to show you. We could use all of this and make it to where it reacts to a curved surface, and that could happen. And we'll show you how we would where we would make the design decision different. But the first thing I had to do was, this was a drawing we've done before. Remember when we were thinking about if it was a standard situation where you're just a single beam and everything's clear and goes through, or this one, remember where I was starting to look at a beam, another beam, the other beam, the other beam, that the center line of the structure is coming through the middle of the gap, the center lines through the middle of the gap, the center lines through that rod, these center lines meet the outside, right? There's kind of this complex relationship. So I was trying to figure out what is the smallest logic that I want to build. Is it just this? It's like, okay, I could just do this right here. If I model that, snap the beams in, put these things in, I could probably drop that in and then I could flip it to here, and I could take those two and flip it to the other side, grab all of those and repeat them, right? And that would work. And I'll show you how, we can snap that together really quick. But what would also happen is that I would get a seam on all the beams. And that's really annoying. So my first thought was, I'm going to use the pattern base for some of this because it really helps out. But I'm not going to include the big beams in the pattern base because, one, I want them to not have the seam wherever they're being seamed. And I want to be able to turn them off really easily because we like that idea of ghosting them, right? Ghosting that one. It's like, well, it being separate is nice because I want to be able to turn that off separately easily, right? So the idea that no matter what I build as this assembly, I'm going to keep those as a separate thing that I lock in, okay? So that was one step. So then I was like, okay, well, if those are going, the thing is if I do this one and this one, and then I flip it, I'm getting a double compression member there, right? And then if I flip it here, I'm not getting the member there. Oh, that's annoying. So I was realizing that it's I need to do a bigger version than just this. So I started looking at, well, I was trying to think through, I was looking in plan. I was just like, what is the grid? Do I want to do the whole thing? And I drop all of these in the middle facing it. So in essence, like beam, 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 is it the whole square that I want to do? Right. And I was trying to figure that out. And what I realized is that this is actually a stagger is what's happening. It's all shifting off each other. So what I realized is there's a way of just doing that, or just doing, let's say, this, but then having this repeat here. See? This is exactly that. Right? That makes sense? Because then this repeats up here. Well, there's a pattern base that does that. So that took me a while to think through. It was about understanding, really understanding what the pattern was and how I could make the smallest bay and repeat it. And I finally came to the idea that it's a stacked half step. And it's actually the same thing here as here. And then we get everything repeating the way we need. Okay. So we're going to work through how I kind of use that to build the thing. I'm going to show you what I actually modeled, and then we're going to remodel them really quickly so you see it. So I'm kind of looking at, we're going to be looking at, I'll model this really quickly, the generic model pattern based, but I'm going to change it to the double step. So there's 2 squares in the center with 6 points. Okay. Now this center, this connection points, all these connection points are going to be falling at these nodes in the center, right? Because whenever you're doing this, you want the logic to be the clear thing, like everything's attached to that. So the center line's there. So that means I need to offset a couple lines. I need to offset where all of these points hit, right? So the first thing I have to do is figure out what's my offset in, put an offset in across here at each one of these. And now all of a sudden I can snap a pipe in, snap a pipe in. I can also put the compression member across and the compression member across. So they're not going all the way to that center line because they're to the inside of the beam, right? Now I know the beam's going to snap in here after the fact, because remember I already said I'm going to snap that to the same logic. So that'll come in. But what are the other things? Well, this bracket, I'm going to come in and I can snap right to that node because I'm going to build this to where the center line of that pipe that's crossing between the two is the exact location of that node, right? Because it's the center of this whole thing. The center line of this pipe right here is exactly at this node and this node. So I'm going to snap one in here and snap another one in here. That will repeat to this side and that will repeat to this side as it goes through, right? Now we're going to start playing with whether or not we want to load all of this stuff into one and drop it in, or whether or not we just want to take these and build them in the world. And sometimes that's easier, especially if it's not a complex form. Okay, so it's really good to use this if we want this thing to change and manipulate, right? But I'm going to show you how it's still beneficial to build in this world because the structure is already there. We can drag and drop this in and just select 6 points. And it's like, you don't have to use the divided surface to do that. You just have it based on 6 points already. So that's a nice function just for building a component really quickly. Okay. So, and then we'll get to that. Okay, so this was one I was just quickly looking in generic model. Here we have a couple different things. I just snapped this in and stretched it across. So in essence, I'm going to grab one of these really quick and hit SA and delete. And here we start to see my component that is arrayed. We can see that it's in the half step family up here. And if I double click on it, this is what I had done. So half step one, exactly what I had drawn right there. Snap the bracket in, snap this stuff in, and started to build up the other elements. And then this is when I started saying, okay, how do we want to do this? So we'll work through the second half of this in this. Okay, so how do we build all these things? Well, let's first, let's say you should file, open, family. You should have a generic model 2-point pipe. You all made one at one point. If not, you need to make that. You need to look up the stuff. Okay. So I'm going to take this one and it should have an offset, and I'm going to pull the offset back like 6 inches. Okay. Apply. Just so I've got some end there I can see. Now I'm going to build I might even, if I'm doing this really quickly, I might even say, well, let me do this. I'm gonna say file, new, family, generic, and we're just going straight generic model to build these end caps. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just go, we're just going to go blend. Yeah, let's do blend just to make it a little interesting. And let's do this in the correct way. I want you to get used to drawing reference lines and really thinking through the drawing before you do it. So I'm gonna have a square base that then comes out to a round, and just to get a little bit of a blend of shape to it. Be interesting. We could just do a dowel, but I'm gonna do it a little more interesting for this. I'm gonna do this like I always do, equal, and this because I want it square. And then we can kind of get a size to this 6 inches. That's a bit much. We want about, let's say 2 inch. And 2 inch. No, let's make this a parameter and say base. Let's make sure that works. Base, let's say 6 inch. Apply. There we go. It moved. Okay. DE. What we're doing is I'm making it have a variable. I just grab this one and I can tell it to be base. Automatically changes, right? Now, the benefit of that is I want to be able to make a small one and large one. So I took this 5 seconds right there to do that. So that way I could just make variations of this quickly, right? Okay. So I want to create blend. I'm going to go top is, I'm going to go circle. I'm going to grab to the center. It'll lock that. And I'm going to actually just, let's see what, I don't know if it's going to, and I'm going to grab this, I make it real, and then I can touch it and say parameter diameter. We could say top. Okay. Oh, that was base. So we're editing the base right now. Okay. So because now it says edit top. I was just not thinking. So it's going to be the reverse. Let's see what happens. I'm going to grab this. AA. You don't have to lock, but I'm locking just to make sure. Now it's going to extrude 1 foot. DD. So we got a round thing here, base here. It's interesting, but we actually want it reversed. So I'm going to quickly do it. Just say, so you see how like it's weird because you're editing the base, which I thought already, but then it says, hey, do you want to edit the top? And so I just got that wrong. I'm going to quickly go. We could do this. I'm going to say edit base. And I want base to be that. Let's just delete this. And I'm going to read because I screwed that up. All the things will be saved, but my parameters are already saved, but let's just make sure. So blend, I'm going to go in the view that I had. So when it says edit top, that's switched to edit top. We're editing the bottom right now, right? The other way to do it is you do, that should work. And you should be able to lock if you just draw it like that. Come on. There we go. And now edit top, circle, grab, doesn't matter, turn that on, grab that dimension, and I've already made it top diameter. It's going to extrude out 1 foot. That's good. Base, DD. Okay, sometimes it's better just to practice and redo it instead of making sure something's wrong. So let's call this File, save. This is a generic model, Kimble, table end. Okay. Now let's load that into our pipe. Okay, now what's interesting is it's coming in just vertical like this, right? And so it's like, oh man, I want it to be on this thing. Well, we can go SW and we should be able to grab that. Oh, it's still just going vertical. Well, we should check. Does this have always vertical on? Oh, I want it to be work plane based. Okay, so let's save, load that in. Overwrite version. I'm gonna delete these. Go away. Okay. Just for clarity's sake, I'm going to grab this type and say, because we know we had it 1 foot, I'm going to do 1 foot. Okay. No way. I want to look at this, right? So what I'm going to do, this is kind of interesting, is that I'm going to move this to where it's off angle. Do you see how like there's the thing that's true global plane, and then there's the one that's at the angle of the line, right? So this is interesting. I'm offset it so that the vertical one, the one for the line's end, which is always perpendicular to the line, that's where I want this to be set on, not the global Z, right? So now I can grab that family. Say place on work plane, SW, make sure it's on that one. And boom. Now, SW, that one. And usually there's a way to, oh, it's rotating that way. We can do a negative. How do I flip it? I flipped it the other way. And maybe I made a negative before. I'm trying to remember how I did the negative before. We're going to come back and edit that later. I can actually edit. How did I do that? Did I just flip it? I think I just did a negative value for its height. That's what I did. The top is negative. Okay, let's do that really quick. Come back in. In essence, we want a negative value of -1 foot for the opposite. Oh, perfect. Now it's located at the same spot, but it's opposite, right? So we've got a 1 foot and a -1 foot. So let's just put this and say opposite. Okay. And the opposite will, now we could say -1 foot to do the opposite there. Okay. So let's load that in. Override existing. I can grab this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to write opposite terribly. Double click on that and say minus. Oops. Now I grab that one and say you should be opposite. Boop. Okay. Now, I've got a couple of these set up that I just use for different stuff. Usually I just put a round ball at the end because it just gives enough of a detail, because really you're kind of layering this in and just doing that here. Now, this was still based as like my basic pipe. I'm going to file, save as a new file, and I'm going to throw this into my project. Now, because I've been doing some of these so many times, I have so many of the same things. You probably wouldn't do this. I end up building the same things over and over again to show them. So it's a little different, but so this will be, this is just actual cable. Okay. So now we got that. Let's start by looking at file, where we're going to put this in. New family, generic model, pattern based. And remember, I can grab this and then change it to that half step. Now we've got all of those. The other thing I might do is, actually, it's already set up perfectly, but 10 foot by 10 foot, that's kind of the grid. I would probably change out the grid just so I know I'm in the right ballpark, right? Okay, now we know that these are in the middle, so now we need to get some points nested in a certain distance. So notice that there's no line crossing in the middle. I'm going to start by putting a reference line from this node to this node, and then that way I can put a dot there, and I'm not even going to worry about them. I'm just throwing them down really quickly. Okay, but we got to make sure that they're all looking the correct direction, looking away. I want the same way, the kind of offset look. Yeah, if that makes sense. Okay, now I can cheat, grab everything, filter. I just want my 6 reference points, apply. Okay, they're all at different spots, but I want to say segment length, and I want this all to be, now doing the math, it's it's a total of let me just switch really quick. I'll show you. So it's 8 inches for the width of the glue lamb. It's 16 inches, so it's 8. It's in essence 8, 8, 8, 8. Think of it that way, because the center line's in the middle, right? So that's kind of like the size of it, 8, 8, 8, 8, or 8, 16, 8, right? Which means we have 16 inches from the center line to the edge of that, which is kind of where this starts, right? So so 16 inches, 1'4", is how far the inside face of that is, which is where I'm going to nest this node. Okay, so that's my logic, size, all that. So when I write this in here of segment, I want these offset 16 inches. Okay, and they're all just 16 inches. Now I can say, well, I want my brand new fancy this. Ooh, let's name this thing file, save as family, Kimble. This is generic pattern based, Kimble. Roof X bracing. Okay, now I know where I'm loading stuff in correctly or not. So I'm going to load this into my X bracing. Okay. Now remember, for my drawing, I've got rigid ones going from here to there. I've got other ones going crossing from here to there. I've got other ones going from here to there. And I've got other ones going from here. And because that's all there, I'm actually going to grab this one, HH, hide them really quick, and go and hide reset. Okay, but now they're all the same, right? Remember, we wanted 2 different, we wanted compression ones and tension ones, right? So I'm going to label this right now and say, let's go into this, and pipe diameter, let's go 2 inches right now on this one. Okay, so now I'm going to rename this as compression. And I'm going to right click and say duplicate. Okay, and I'm going to rename this one. I should just rename it as tension. Okay, I double click in this, and I want well, that's funny, I'm gonna have to double. I want to do this as like 0.5 inch. Okay, now I can grab these 2. I don't even need to re-put them in because it understands it's a 2 point. I can just flip it to tension and we get the small ones, right? I might have to load tab in. We can do something fancy. All right. So these have a variation, right? I can edit in its file, there are types, right? I can go in the opposite and we can change these. We'd turn on, we'd put in a small one and a big one, and we turn them on visually or not. Or I could just leave the small ones on all the time and the big ones there, and you just never see the small ones because the big ones are over the top of them. So those are kind of cheats, but if that makes sense, I'm not going to do that right now. But the idea that we could say base, hell, might as well. I would say opposite, duplicate, opposite, small, duplicate, opposite, or the normal ones, small. Does that make sense? Now I'm going to double click into this one. And so I'm going to have it extend out the same amount, but top be 1 inch, bottom 2 inch. Okay. 2 inch. Okay. Now I'm going to grab these two and hide them real quick. And now I'm going to grab in the opposite. Okay. And then I'm going to just drop it in on the subwork plane on that. And remember, I've already got it there. I'm just going to switch this one to the normal small. Okay. Hide reset. Now what I can do is I can just grab these two and say, I want their visibility to turn on or off. Off. But I'm just going to write toggle little. Okay. Now watch. So what that does is that gives me the option, override existing. We're not going to notice any difference because those big ones are there all the time. But now I can go in to say, hey, my tension member, I should be able to double click on this and say, turn off those large ones. And the babies are there. So now we got the babies on the thin one, and that on the big. All right. That's a lot of fanciness. Okay. That's going to kill your computer. So you're not going to be wanting to array this a lot. But we'll show you what's going to happen. This is why you work on servers. Let's do the big beam really quick. So I got it over here. Maybe I don't. So simple thing, file, new, family, generic model, line base. We're going to do a few of these. All right, so we can just look at the end. RE. So this one is fixed. There are different ways logic do it. You could do the, because remember I was saying these are kind of all equal now. So you can actually do that, say equal, grab one of these in the center here and say 8 inches, and now they're all 8 inches. Okay, super smart. Now we want from here to here. Remember, we want this at the center line anyway, so equal. And then we want this to be 2 feet. Okay, so here's our 2 beams. That quick, create extrusion. And I'm just going to grab right from the corner to the corner. And yes, we could lock it all, but I don't care. Okay, there we go. Now, remember what we screwed up the last time? I'm just going to switch to the other side. Here's that line. I'm going to go AA. And I lock that. That's what we screwed up that one day and stuff wasn't going right. So now this will go in. So I'm going to say file, save as family. And we should have, I think I already had it in here. I just want to double glue it. I'm just going to resave over that one. You want to save over it? Or maybe it's mad. Okay, I'm just gonna file, save it again, save as family. It probably doesn't want me to save over that for some reason. I'm just gonna write 2 times RAM. Make sense? Okay. I've got this random world, this conceptual world open, just to test some stuff. Like you can turn off this and turn off this, or we could turn just to look to see what's going on. And as is, it was just a dumb panel that I subdivided. Okay, just to test some stuff. So I don't really care. I'm just deleting all of it. It doesn't matter. What I want to do though, really quickly, what is this 14? I just want to load this beam in and make sure it works. So I'm throwing it into 14 really quick, just to make sure. Oh, there it goes. Now it's all on a random thing, but if I go SW, I want it on. This is the thing about those lines. As soon as you pick the work plane that you're on, there we go. Then you drop it on that work plane, right? And you can, what's nice is you can still array them to perfect things too, so you can align them to stuff. So it worked fine. It stretches the distance that I want. So all that's good. So I'm going to close this down. WW, because it is saved, I don't need that open. All right. This was my first one. We still need to build that crazy thing, right? So I'm going to do, we already saved this. Yeah, save it again, just in case. Just going to close down some of this stuff. Okay, that's the one we're building in. We can close that down. Save it, that's fine. That was, oh, that's why, because that first one was open. That's why it was like, why do you want to save over it? No, it's all right. Same generic thing. Okay, that's the one we're going to build now. So let's go file. New, remember we wrote here that it's just going to be, it doesn't change. So if it doesn't change, like, or if it just has types, then I'm just going to do generic model, straight generic model as an object, because it's a really easy world to model in. Okay, so we're looking at the plan right here. I'm going to go RE and I'm going to make it this direction. So what I'm looking at is like the width of stuff. So I'm going to have kind of 2 long ones going this way, 2 long ones going this way. There's going to be the size of the panel here. There's going to be a center line over here and the size of the panel here. So let's start to get these dimensions where we want them. This is 5 feet, and it'll make sense in a second, because the whole thing is that this is a 10-foot bay, but remember that arm, the bracket arm reaches to the middle of the other thing, right? And I'm going to say this is like an 8-inch total. So that's 4 inches there. 4 inches there. We can do this really quickly again by just saying 4 inches there. Okay. So I'm just kind of thinking through this, the center line of the whole thing. I'm looking in plan right now. So okay, so I'm going to go to the side. I want to look at the side of this. Okay, so we can see that's the center line of the bracket. If I'm looking at the edge of this, I had to go that way. Okay, we got the very top, the very bottom, and we got the arm that reaches. We got the arm that reaches between, right? And it's all based on that center line. Okay, I'm going to make this all equal, just like the other thing. Equal. I can grab this one that's next to the pin one and say, let's do 8 inches. Yeah, nah, it's a little much. Let's do 4 inches. I don't think the proportions are that much. There we go. That looks more like that bracket that we see in the thing. Okay. So now we're looking from this side and we're just gonna do a whole bunch of extrusions. Real simple thing, create extrusion. We can do this really quickly by going, I'm just gonna junk something over and there. SS splits, now FF. Okay, got my thing. Okay. We can say, okay, now watch, I go back to plan and it's here. Now I know I want this thing to be, let's say 1 inch thick. So I'm going to say, what is the, oh, I didn't in plan. I didn't actually set this out yet. We want this to be equal. So I want the inside to be 16 inches, remember? So 8 and 8 each way. Okay. Which one is that? I got to make sure. It's a little too, okay. Move that one away. And I wanted this one at 1 inch thick. We could be hardy. We could say 2 inches thick. How about that? We'll say this is 2 inches thick. It is a pretty damn big plate of steel there. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're setting up, so watch, AA, lock, lock. Now we got that one there. Actually, I don't even need to do that. Cool. Because I'm just going to grab it and MI, mirror it. There it is. Okay. Now we're going to go back to that side and I'm going to go, hey, I want a big old post. I can lock to the center. Let's say it's, let's say 3 inches. Oh, it was at 3 inches. Okay. Again, go back to reference line. It's not there. AA. Lock. Lock. Got it. Okay, now I got all fancy in my other one, and I put a whole bunch of bolts in. It did what? Really slowed down all the computer and stuff. Like I'll show you that I did it. There was, so I did this really easily by just making one extrusion. I'll do it real quick, but so we just went in that front. And what I did is I set up a center line here and a center line there and a center line because it's 4 on each bay. I just did this really quick. Ooh, be straight though. And the thing is, it actually wants to center pretty quickly. You can usually get it to, as soon as it, like, 2 inches. Nope. Yep. Okay. And then what I did was create extrusion circle. I did a little peg that was like, let's say 3/4. And then I just grabbed that and said, copy, boom, 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 boom. Because I haven't extruded yet. So I'm just making this all, oh, that one's off, whatever, that one's off. And then I grabbed all those, and then I grabbed all these and said, copy, grab that corner and put it over here. And then said, yay. Looked in plan. Said, I wanted you to be, I think I had a distance, like the thing's 8. I wanted it to stick out a bit, right? So I wanted this to be, let's say 9 inches. That way we could see them a little bit. AA. They're all together, so it works. Again, there. Now those are all there. I can grab it, mirror. Boop. Okay. So now we have a bracket, and the center point of it is dead center in this spot right there. So let's say file, save as family. Called it rigid pin. I'm going to call it rigid bracket. Okay. Now I'm going to load that into our pattern based. And I can just drop it right there. And I can just come here. Cover right there. Okay. So now that was a start. We can, let's just test how this is working, because and load in kind of what I had started in the other project. So if we load this into that conceptual mass, and I was just doing a dumb thing really quick by making a plane, creating a flat surface, dividing it. And I just set everything to be 10 feet by 10 feet, since that's what we know it's going to be. And I'd actually set up a grid that was actually the size. I just threw these in really quick, so we could actually go in here and say, we could actually make this the exact size. Could have just drawn it correct the first time, but there we go. And now look, it's all there. Now I could grab that, and I loaded this in already, so I could actually just go, hey, there's my roof X bracing. GD. Okay. So that's the bonus of using the pattern base. It's already there like that. Okay. Now I want to be able to snap those beams in also. Oop, these are going the wrong way. I need to rotate. Rotate grid 90. It'll make sense. Yeah. Okay. They're going the right way. But I want to be able to snap those beams into those same things. So I want to turn, I'm going to just, the panels are just there, but I'm going to turn on surface and turn on the nodes. Okay. So even though that the components are still there, I just don't want to see them really quick. And now I'm going to go in, I'm going to load family, and I should have my, my 2-time glam. That's the one we did. And there we go. And I can snap to these. Now, this was the frustrating thing. The stupid thing went array. Drove me nuts. It's killing me that the generic models and generic line based will not array. So you have to snap them. Yeah, it just makes me mad. The other way, if you want to be able to snap it in and array it, you have to actually build it in a generic model adaptive. And so that means you have to draw those, how easily we just drew those cross sections in the generic model. We have to do that in the 3-dimensional world of the generic model adaptive. So it just makes it a little fussier. So now watch, I can just go back in, grab, come here now. I got to get the surface. Come here. Tab. There we go. And I could say, turn the component back on, turn the surface off. Now I get all those spots gone, and we've got that lined up. Looking pretty sharp. Looking pretty, we see the bracket on the inside, which is kind of what was happening. We see the note, all these on the outside. We got the fancy little hardware. Great start, right? This is pretty heavy. I'll be honest, like I got a crunch of a laptop. I probably wouldn't. So this is where I also want you to make decisions. Like in the full project, I would do a version of, I would do a version of this whole thing with maybe just a simple cable. Like I would load in one without the ends, and I would load in these without the pegs, and this thing would be so much smaller. And I would just turn off this panel or the other one when I want to do a final rendering. But the entire semester when I'm working, I wouldn't have my computer fighting with the whole thing, if that makes sense. So now that was in the conceptual world just to test it. Go away. I don't want to work in here. I was just kind of seeing if it works and what we're going to do. I actually want to build this in a real world, a real project. Let's get rid of some of these things. And I want to go to project. Okay. So this is one that I had, what I did really quickly is I just made, instead of, if I want to use the divided surface, I have to make a massing in place, and then divide the surface and then load that thing in. But I could also just make a grid with my lines 10 foot by 10 foot, and I have intersection points. And so what I did here, actually, we'll just SA, delete, is this is just a grid like you would set up a grid, nothing else. What else do I have in here? Let's grab all these. SA, delete, all of you. No, not what did I do? Control Z, grab the wrong thing, sorry, I want that. Okay, so I just arrayed a grid. I'm not gonna take the seconds, just literally 10 feet by 10 feet. Okay, then I can say load family. We'll load in our new one, that X brace. There's X brace. And yes, I can tell a surface to do it, but I can also just say I would have a family. There's my X brace. It's a 6-point adaptive. One, I don't know which way it goes. Sometimes it takes a second. Figure out. Oh, that's the old. That might be my old one. No, X brace should be that one. Let's see. Let's do first floor. Let's see what we see. So let me actually, let's go in. I've never actually looked at the numbering, like what order it's supposed to come into. Where are you? So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's like a U. That's the way it works. Wait, this is my old one. No, this is the new one. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I'm just going to load that back in to my project. It was already loaded in. I'm just making sure. Okay. There we go. That should be it. And I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's loading it on this work plane somewhere. I need to load it on. We're not seeing it. It's doing. Steven's saying it's loaded over the same thing. So you notice how place on face, I'm going to place on work plane, and I want it to be on, let's say, let's just put it on basement level right now. I'm going to work over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I think freaking 10 times. Yeah. Caps lock. Zoom extent. What am I looking at? Something's weird about this plane. I don't know what this plane is. Oh, I'm on line. Oh, so my shadows had all the lines turned off. I wonder if I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, see, something's there. That's weird. Model groups, Facebook. All right, we're just going to start with that again, because that's killing me. Since I had it all set up. I drew a reference line. I arrayed it. I moved it over 80 feet. I said, go to last. I moved it over 80 feet. And then I said I wanted in essence, 9 increments, which should be given 10. Well, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, right? That was kind of how I did it. And then I did RE here. I should have made it longer. And did the same thing, array, last. I moved it 80. I'm going to make this smaller. We're just going to go like 50 feet, 40 feet. That's fine. And I want 5 to make that work. 5. Okay, so that's the panel we're going to just array it in here. Now, why are you being such a pain since this worked 10 times? There's something about this being 0.01 that's, there's 2 of them. That's what's been killing me. Something about, yeah. All right. So it'll rotate, but we just got to go in the order that we want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I just, instead of array, now we could just say, hey, we could copy it. We could array the same way. I could say, hey, I could do the same thing. Go to last from here to there, and I want a total of 5. Oh no, 9. Right? There we go. Oh, no, I wanted less than that. That was the last one. 8. There we go. So we're falling right on that dimension, right? We're getting it to repeat. So just a way that, just because you're doing the pattern base doesn't mean you need to load it onto a thing. I guess that's would be kind of the big takeaway. Now what's nice is I was telling this to come in and do a certain level, but because it's kind of a 3-dimensional element, I can still grab it and say, hey, I want, I can grab the component, SA grabs all of them. I can move them from one layer to another layer, which that's not always possible with those objects because it's not locked to some, like floors. You can't just move a floor up. You got to tell the floor to go to the other layer because these are objects they can just move around. So we're now on the 2nd floor that's at 14 feet. If I go back to, let's say, the site plan level, I'm going to come in here and say, family, where's my 2-time beam? It's probably in structural. See, I have some of these in structural connections, which was an old. Did I not load that beam in yet? 2 times. Oh, I loaded into the other one, not this one. We're just gonna do this real quick. So now I should have 2-time glulam. And I can just snap to these. Now, what's nice about this, actually, I could just snap it once. We're not seeing it because it's down below. It depends on what layer you have selected when you're putting it in there. I want to control Z that out. Place on work plane. Let's put it on, we said level 2nd floor. Okay, so now we're seeing them. What's nice about this is because now let's say if we had locked the, I'm drawing each one, I shouldn't have, I should just copy and array it the same way I did the other stuff. So again, I'd probably just grab right at this spot, grab to here, and it was 8. No. Oh, that's why, because 9 is the increment, 8 is the interval. That's why the one was 8. This is 9. Okay. So what's nice is that we have an end condition that's kind of unique where if I had put the glue lam into, we could have just dropped the glue lam into here. Remember I was saying like we could take, this, and I could go, hey, I want, and let's hide this really quick. I could take that glue lamp and snap it from here to there. And then if I load this in, so we have them per component, but we don't have them going further, right? And so because we want that end extension to probably go out on the end, and I don't want the seam every time it repeats, that's why I was separating. So we could have built it into this, but we wanted it to not be in it, right? We wanted it to be its own free element, right? Which is kind of why, because the beams go out to a different length as the gutter, as the roof, I kind of wanted those things to have a little more freedom in what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to actually, we leave those reset, and I'm going to go back into this and delete that because I don't want it in there. Now, I want to, because we're just kind of snapping things onto these grid lines in the project base and not using this as a pattern, I'm going to make the roof that goes over this, the curved roof and the photovoltaics, it's the same every panel, right? So I'm just going to do a new one of these that's just a 4-point file, new family, generic model, pattern based. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in. And what I want is, I want the panel to be broken down a certain way, where I want I'm going to drop a few points in. This makes sense really quick. Midpoint, reference line. I like putting those points there. I know it doesn't, it probably half doesn't matter. I'm going to put a point at mid there, a point at mid there, and a point at mid there. Now I'm going to drop a point SW tab on top of that. Yeah, I know. SW tab. Oop. There. I know. SW point SW tab. There, right there. Yeah, I know. Now I can grab that one, and that one. And I think the overall camber of that glass is about a foot. It's not much of an arc, right? It's just a subtle arc going over. So this is what I'm going to do to make my glass. So reference line. And the reason I'm doing 3 of them is that's actually the panel breakdown is 5 foot. So I'm automatically just kind of making this work out. I'm going to be really quick about this and say, I'm going to draw a circle SW on that plane that is maybe 3 inches diameter. And then I'm going to draw SW on that plane and draw a circle that's 3 inches diameter. I'm going to make these both reference lines just because it seems to always be smarter. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to tab in and just grab that one, create form. Okay. That one, grab that, create form. What I'm doing is I'm making the ribs. I know it's a square, I know it's a profile, but half the time I'm rendering, the lines will work out kind of as well as I want. I'm going to grab that, HH, grab this, HH. And now I can grab this one, tab, grab this one, and that one, create form. I'm just going to let it be an extrusion. Now we can grab this and say, we can say, I think I'm just going to call it glass and see if how translucent it comes in. Default glass. There we go. Glass. Okay. So it should come in a bit translucent when we do something. Hide reset. Now we got ribs in that. Okay. Now what's tough So it's like, oh man, I just did that. This is exactly what I did last night. And then I realized I was supposed to do it differently when I sat here. So let's think about it differently. Why is this wrong? I realized it as soon as I did it last night too. Oh man, what did I do? This arc is going from this point to this point, right? In the grid, let's just look at our drawings. Does the arc go from the center line to the center line, or does it go from the center line of the wood to the center line of the wood? The arc is inset per bay. It's not there. So I realized, oh, I was supposed to actually create it to where there's a beam and a beam inset so that they're centered over that. That way I can snap to the same grid that this is on, right? This is the difference. Is like, I could use what I've just done, and then I would have to snap it to the center line of these beams each time. Well, that's a pain. And then there's like a legacy instead of just it all following to the same logic. So I'm going to take 5 minutes and I can just delete. I'm going to delete that quick and delete that real quick and delete that. Oh, okay. Actually, screw it. I'm just going to delete them because it takes 2 seconds. It is getting in the habit of just when you screw up. Let's see how long this takes. It's 12 minutes after. Generic model, pattern based. Okay. I want a point here, a point here, a point here, and a point here. I want this looking that way. Yeah. I want this switching that way. This should be correct. And this should be the other way. Yep. Okay. Now I want those two and these two, fancy selection, to be a set distance. Now, what's the set distance off? I want the 8 inches over of the gap plus half of that, which is 4. So 4 and 8 is 12. 1 foot off will be the center line of those beams. Okay. Did I not just do it? Oh, damn it. I didn't grab them all. So does that make sense? I'm grabbing this, grabbing these. They're all looking the correct direction. Segment length varied 1 foot. Okay. Now, this is my reference line. Now I got that. Now I got that. I won't put the point there. I like putting the point because then I know it's grabbing it, but nope, see, screwed off. Yeah, something about that one I don't like it. I like knowing, see, there's just like, it's funny because Revit says like weak reference or strong reference. And so like the idea that there, so now we got the point. And so the more that you like give it instructions, the more it understands that it's a strong reference and that it's important to you. It's kind of a weird thing. And we put this up. Let's even do a little less. Let's say it's 8 inches up. Okay. Reference spline through points. Remember, it's important to always go the same direction. It'll get really upset if you don't go the same direction. So it thinks you're trying to fold it on itself. And let's do the circle SW right there. 3 inches. SW there. 3 inches. I'm going to grab both of those and say reference. I can tab, grab that, make object, tab, grab that, tab, grab that. Oh, I don't need to do it there. HH, tab. and make that surface glass. All right, how long did that take? I'm not getting the surface. I don't want I want the surface. There we go. Well, took 4 minutes. Okay, worth it. Now, we'll figure it out. Now we want the I-beam on these because the I-beam is centered right underneath there, right? So let's just, this is funny. Load, I'm going to load in the Mies. Actually, I think it's in my just normal stuff. I think it's in my basic components now. 2-point W flange, structural W. I think that's a different, where's the structural? Where's the one that we did? It's not those W flange. That's the one. So this is the one with all the fancy stuff that we did, right? And it's gigantic because it was the Mies one, right? So I just like showing this because it's pretty funny. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to snap on that. Come here. I might turn off this stuff. So yeah. HH. Okay. And put some face so it goes on the point. U to U and U to U. Then I go into here and I say I want metal thickness 0.5 inch, overall depth, let's say 6 inches, overall width, let's say 4 inches, web extension 0, half width, endpoint offset 0. Apply. Maybe. Okay. Now this there's a little bit of elevation height. I could probably drop this. Oh, we could do negative, right? No, it's not the whole thing. If we want it to be down, we just go -6. Oop, I didn't actually write negative. Oh, maybe it's gotta be in front of that. Negative. There we go. Okay, so it's dropping down. That makes sense. When I repeat, that one will go there. We could draw one there and then you just get a repeated element in it or not. It's kind of file size management stuff. Let's save this. It's pattern-based roof glazing. Now, remember, we were going to, that's probably a bad habit I have of like renaming that way. I don't know, like I probably have screwed that up once or twice and not realized. So that could be a thing, just wondering. Now, remember, we also wanted that other thing above too, right? And so this is where we could come in and that other thing floats above, right? So here's a little trick. I can grab that whole thing and just say, create object, make it a box. And let's say I want that whole thing to be 2 feet above, okay? I can use the logic of this to build that other system, right? I could put points on these lines the same way I put points on the other lines. I can have them look the direction I want to look. It's kind of hard to see sometimes because that stuff's there. You got to kind of, instead of, let's say, projecting up, I'm using a box that's there. Okay, so now they're all facing the same direction. I can sweep grab that way, probably get all 4, and then say I want segment length. I want this to line up directly over the top, which was 1 foot, right? I want to bring that same W flange in because it is actually just a stacked element from there to there, and another one from there to there. And then, hey, but let's just not even be fancy about it. Let's just put another one in from here to here. we could, oh, let's do it one more time. Let's find, I'm going to grab this one and grab this one and hide them really quickly. I'm going to draw a reference line from that point to this point, and from that point to this point. And what that will do is give me a midpoint. And now we got even a structure in the middle. Come here, there you are. And hide reset. Okay, now what's interesting is I can just grab this whole box and say not visible. And I swear it goes away in the other thing. I swear it goes away when it was, yeah, that's all I did, not visible. I swear that happens. Let's load it in and see. Let's save. It's kind of an interesting, I swear I got this to work this morning. Let's load that into the project. Okay. And let's just drop it somewhere and see what happens. Let's go to site plan. And I have no idea which way it goes. I'm guessing 2, 3, 4. Aha. Okay. Drop down that layer. We'll grab that. We could say, usually you could just tell it what pick new stuff. Because these are just objects being dropped in, I can also just go to elevation, say, I wanted you. We could, oh, let's put it to here and then let's make that at the correct height. So I probably should have built this whole thing up so that the bottom of the beam would be right there, but the bottom, this whole thing's supposed to have a little vertical extension from there to there. So I could say right now, this is 4 feet, that's 2 feet up to here, 6 inches. Let's say, let's put this down to 17 feet. Okay. Oh, I copied it. Let me copy it. Why is that not over the top of it? Oh, because I didn't put it over the top of it. I just put it over the thing. Okay, so now we can go, let's say site plan. So we could start, let's say, copying that into place, dropping it in, revising them, updating them. I could come in and let's drop little posts in. I want to stop for a second and get some other stuff done, but the idea of building it in, let's do the gutter really quick so we can drop that in. I just want to see all of the things in place. We could also take that same element and load it into our XBrace. And this is kind of like, how crazy of a component do you want? Because if I grab, if I grab that and make the form that goes up, remember, just like I did the other time, and let's put it at, we said 3 feet was kind of like maybe what's there. So now watch what happens. I've got points at the middle and there. I can now load in that glazing into here, and I just load it in twice. 1, 2. Come on, where are you? Oh, yeah, no, please. It might have been selected that face as I was doing it. Let me escape. It might have been stuck on that face. So you gotta make sure you're on. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there's something about it rotating. We'll have to maybe set work plane for it. Come on now. Have something. Yeah, it's some reason it's like can go out. I'm going to set work plane, and we're going to put it to that work plane. There we go. Now it's liking that it's at least laying flat. Can't see where I am. Come on, where did I rotate? There we go. I think it's this corner. Yeah. Okay. So again, I would just, so you notice how the boxes are there, we could tab, grab this box, HH. So in essence, we could load it in twice to here, where now it's all coming in together as one thing. So I'm gonna load it in one time. This is where, you know, details getting more and more. So these points are projected straight above that, right? So it's just kind of interesting. I had not thought about doing this before, but well, sure, the second time it's all easy. I should have just reached through and grabbed it. It's that point right there. I orbited. Come on, orbit. There we go. So turn off visibility, make it so it's not visible in the thing, and HH hide it in here. And we've got all that going on. So we could have the framing, we could put another mesh into that, or the photovoltaic, we could put panel, right? So there's the panels above this. There's vertical structure. So we could be really fancy and go, let's do that real quick. I could just make an object in here, SW on that. Actually, SW on that. And I'm going to put a little 2-foot circle. Where'd you go? Let's hide this. So notice I'm going to make this a reference line, and I'm going to say create object, which is going to make a cylinder. But now I want it to go, because there's actually 2 legs that goes up here. I can just AA it to the bottom of that. And the bottom of it should be half the beam up, which is at 2 feet. Ooh, negative minus 2 feet. Oh, come on. So what I'm doing is, oh, I didn't draw. Oh, I got to inset it in. Oh, it had to be in there. Okay, I have to move that over. But those are the posts that are then holding those things up. So I could just be drawing it on that point right there, and we could get it. You know what? No, it's got to be on that point right there. I'm going to draw it on the box. I'm going to put one of these in so we can just see what's going on. We want the point. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it in. I'm going to do it in this one because we got the information here, right? So there's an essence of vertical pipe at each one of these points because it goes down to the beam below and up, right? So I'm just going to go make a pipe, SW tab on that plane. That's maybe 2-inch diameter, and reference line, create form. AA could grab the bottom of that, lock it up, and then I'm going to grab this and say minus negative offset minus 1 foot. It's so funny, it's the opposite. So this is, it's standing up off the glulam beam. So I could put those in everywhere. It'd repeat if I put them on these 4, it'll repeat when it goes there. Let's load that in. So there we start to see that one there. Again, HH. We're going to put the glue lambs in. We could make sure we get that. I could test the glue lamb by just putting a glue lamb in really quick and looking to see how it's, oh, that's all lining up, right? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now, one last thing was the gutter. We got 30 minutes. All right. Gutters is super easiest, although I haven't built it yet, so that's terrible to say. File, new family, generic model. We want just straight generic model. Nope, we want. We don't want generic model. We want generic model line, same as the things. New family, generic model line based, because it's just a long line. We're going to look at the left end of it. Where again, so where it's snapping, it's probably go low. I can't think of where it's. I'm going to snap it. Shoot, where am I snapping it? Snapping it. I haven't thought about that. Let's look at this really quick. What do we want to snap it? If we want to build it into here, we could snap it on these 2 points and tell it how high to be. We could also, so it actually, it's down here anyways. So the center line right here, we want to snap it between those points, but we want the lip of it. It actually needs to drop down. So the center point, this will make sense. The gutter is going to drop down like this. That makes sense. The flange goes over that. The water pours off that into this. Okay. So when I'm looking at this from the end of it, RE, this whole thing is the width of the gap, and there's going to be a little bit of flange and flange. Okay. So let's say here to here to here, here equal, and that is 8 inches. Now that's the gap between the wood, right? We know that's the gap down below. Let's say there's a 4-inch flange here and a 4-inch flange on that side. Okay, and let's say that drops down about this much. And we wanted to have the nice little angle bit that it had. Let's say this is 1 foot deep, and let's make line. I'm gonna do this really quick. Ooh. This is kind of nice little function here. What I'm doing is I want the V to be equal. Good enough. So that I just go create extrusion, line, lock, hit that corner, hit that corner, hit that corner, hit that corner. And I think it might let me make a plane. No, once it closed to, okay, that's fine. We could just, we can actually just go 1 inch. Boop, 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 boop. Nope. Looks good to me. Okay. Look at elevation. Again, AA. Lock. File. Save as family. Line-based Kimble gutter. Let's load it into that big old X bracing mayhem. Although I don't think I would use it in here. I can. So, oh, I didn't want to load it in here. I want to load it in that file, not in this one. I want to load it into the top, the glass roof glazing. It'll make sense. So if I want to test run it, I can say, hey, how did that work in here? Where's my, there we go. And I should just be able to go from there to there. And I got that perfect gutter. And it's it would repeat on the other side. I can model on both sides. But so this is where I know it worked, but I know I want it to go out farther than the other one. So I'm actually just going to drop it into the real world like I did the glue lamps. Okay. This is all, so I'm just actually going to drop it straight into the project. I know it works, and I know I can snap it on the kind of logic, and I know, but I could go from here to here, but I might want it to shoot out a bit. We're gonna have to play with the height a little bit. That's the thing. So we could have it shoot out farther, because the glue lambs. Oh, this is still has the old let's load the new beast in. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Where's my it's just this. The X bracing has everything. We're reloading that into the project, override existing. And that should, yeah, it's kill it all. Blam. Okay. Now we got that whole thing going, but we need to snap the beams into place. This is because this was snapped at the bottom, it wasn't snapped up at that level. So we actually can grab this and say we need to lift it off the host 3 feet, I think is what it ended up being. And now it's at that level. Oh. Now we need to go into plan. And granted, this is the lower level. I'm just doing it so I can see really easy. Let's throw those big old 2-time glue lambs in. Grab it. And we actually want that to shoot out a little bit different because it's kind of shooting there. And let's say array. Those are the wrong levels. So let's just go on the elevation, push them up. The height we want. Just going to grab this one, SA, make sure I got all of them. Move from there to there. I don't know which that guy is. All right. So now we could start looking at how. So this is what was interesting is that not only was that gutter shooting out farther. Might want to read those because actually this structure, which those I-beams were shooting out farther. So I might have some fun like redoing those I-beams separate or arraying this out, but turning, oh, that's what we're going to array this, but then turn, like I can copy the, but then what we want to do is turn off the photovoltaic panels because the photovoltaic panels end early, right? The photovoltaic panels end way back. So we could double click on this. No. It's a group, so it's on to, I'm just going to jump to my file. Exbrace. This and this, I want visibility to be a toggle. New PV off. Okay. So now I got this in here. Let's look at, I'm going to make a copy. I don't know. I'm going to get rid of this thing. Because that one's weird. That one's screwing me up. There's a second one in there. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this one, but then in, I got to rename it, otherwise it's mad. No PV. PV off. Okay. Now I can grab that one and just say, I want you to be, oh, I got it. So whenever I do the copying, sometimes I don't like it the way it, so I'm going to SA, grab all of them, and you can ungroup. Yeah, I know. It's fine. It's all mad. Because I want to be able to grab these ones and tell them to be the other type. No PV. Okay, so we can start to get, ooh, but I only, oh, I actually got to go back into the thing and not just turn off the whole thing, but turn off the rack on top of that, So layered. How complex can you get? You don't need to do all this, but that took an hour and 40 minutes. No, of course, I've been doing this for a long time. I don't care how detailed you get these things. But the idea of nesting, that's what I want to show. You can nest, you can nest, you can nest. You could also just, you don't need to use the divided surface. You can just log them into things. So with that vignette, oh, let's look at the other side. That's funny. Just too bad. Let me grab everything and just rotate it. Why don't you let me rotate? That's fine. Anyways, that was just the idea of exporting the two views. I had two views saved, one just as that, as line work, consistent color, and the other as things where I grabbed everything. And again, when I do these shadows, I make sure there's no, all the line work is white. Apply, and I make sure that there's no profile edge, which means you got to make sure in that setting there's not the extra, because you'll still get the line if you've got the silhouette on, because that didn't change. The silhouette's kind of like above and beyond the graphic of the object. So you got to turn the, then, so I had this view and, you know, saved with the line view, and that's what I exported to get the running. That's extra if you want to do it. It's fun to see how that same, you know, once you get the thing set up, doing the vignette is, you've got the model, get as much from it as you can, right? It is 12:45. I want you to, in our Moodle, I have this. The student evaluations for the course is up, I think by the end, I think it's by Saturday or the 5th. I would appreciate it if in the comments you address these questions. Of the parts, what did you find most beneficial? You could cut and paste this into the comments and write it, or just write out an answer that touches on these things. We kind of tried to take a day introducing the architect, the project, and other projects. Took a day of trying to sketch the axon, a day of trying to model individual components, and then a day of reviewing rough drafts. What did you find most beneficial? What of these parts would you have rather spent less class time doing? Do you feel the course should be offered again? This is a random thing that I did this summer. I'm trying to debate whether or not this gets worked in or how. Because our entire structures program is being redone. We're looking at having just 2 classes, not 3. It'll take on also a little bit of building. And so whether or not there is time to dedicate this much class time towards learning a program might not happen or not. Or then it's an elective. So that means somebody has to offer the course, which is more like this. If so, I want you to be honest on how much you think it hurt taking a class like this over Zoom, or was it beneficial? Okay, so was it, do you feel like this is, I want your honest opinion on the efficacy of the course over Zoom. This is an elective in the summer, so 4 months. Then, are there projects that you'd recommend I remove from the list? Do you think that we're not helpful, or are there projects that you think should be added? Please do that. I would appreciate it. I make changes or not make changes, all those things based on these points. Okay. I'm supposed to allow time for it, but do you have any specific questions that I can pretend to answer quickly? You can send an email. Just send an email if you care. Yeah. Anybody out there? If not, if you have no questions, you can bolt and do this evaluations, please. That's what matters to me most. Please have the rough things to me tomorrow as early as possible. You know, by 10, no later. I'm going to be in travel when I'm doing it, so we'll do as best I can. If we can't, because it's 2 hours, if everybody gets me stuff, it'll be hard to get through everything. I'll get through as much as I can. I'll also make sure I just screenshot red lines. And if we don't get to your project tomorrow in a rough setting, I will try to work on it, do a screenshot and send you the notes on top of it if we don't get to it tomorrow. So just depending on how it unfolds. Okay. All right. This, you what? Yeah, no, I know. The this is so you got to think like this, what we model it today would be like halfway through the project, right? Like the other stuff we've been doing for the projects were kind of simple things, getting basic components. I could see doing this. So this is what's nice is if you work out all the components separately, we kind of understand and we could nest them this way. We could just drop them in certain spots. And then as you move forward through the project, the ability to just put it together again a little differently becomes easy, right? And that's kind of the bigger benefit I see in Comprehensive Studio when it's a really complex project and then you want to make changes. Our ability to just like kind of go and say, oh, well, it's model this and this and this, let's readjust it. So what we did today would be like something at like mid review, you'd go back in and redo some logic, reline some stuff up and make things this complex. You don't start, you know, you would have your ideas and relationships determined when we're doing this level, right? So, but, you know, 2 hours of modeling and we could do a pretty crazy, well done roof that's adaptable. Like that's the benefit. All right, I'm gonna close down. Bye.